How exciting. We are going to be making this lovely, fantastic little purse using the Expressions of Kindness kit. And this is absolutely fantastic. I love how it just opens up. And there it is, just like a little purse. And you can see the bottom of the purse is like that. And inside, it is really, really cute. I just love this, and it's using the elements from the Expressions of Kindness kit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look over, first of all, what we need to create this cute little purse card. Okay, so let's get started. From the kit, what you're going to want to use is your Blackberry Bliss. You need to have a little bit of ink for the sentiment, and that sentiment is going to be used with the stamps that come with it. And I'm just going to use just a little note. It's a little one. And it fits really well on the sentiment tag here. If I lay it down, I can place the sentiment on top and see if it fits, and I can look through, and it does. And this one does too if you're really good and able to get it in right in between all of the gold there. So there's that. Those are the sentiments that we're going to use with the ink and the sentiment tag. So make sure you have that taken out. Also, what you want to do is get the ephemera pack from there, and what you want to do is pop out one of these cute little thistles. I just love the color. I don't know about you. This purple, I think, is absolutely stunning. It is absolutely a gorgeous color, so you want that. From the gold, you're going to want to pop out some of the little gold leaf. Be careful when you pull that. It will come out fairly easily, but just be gentle as you pull it apart. If you pull really hard, it is a possibility that it could rip, so you want one of those. I'm going to put that off to the side too. So we have the items from the ephemera pack. There we go. Let's put that off to the side. You're going to need some ribbon. I'm going to use a long piece of ribbon because it needs to wrap around the whole card, so that ribbon. For the card base, what we want to do is we want to get this absolutely gorgeous card base. Now you'll notice that one side does not have the gold leafing on it. We will be using the gold leafing on the one side. So we're going to be cutting this, and we're going to be using the gold leafing on this side. So I just wanted to let you know that. So we need this card base. And there is the second card base. We are going to be using this portion of the card base, so we will be cutting this also in half and using this on the inside. So those are the items from the kit that we're going to be using. So make sure you have them ready. What you will need to have is a little bit extra. We want one full sheet of Blackberry Bliss. We want to have that, and we're going to be cutting this. So make sure that you have your trimmer. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be cutting this Blackberry Bliss, and I'm going to place the dimensions on what we're going to be cutting. So we're going to be cutting the cardstock, which is this Blackberry Bliss, 5.5 by 10.5. So let's do that. So you're going to be using the full sheet on this. So I'm going to take that. First, I'm going to cut it lengthwise. So first, I'm going to be cutting it lengthwise to 5 1/2. So I'm going to place it in there, go to the 5.5 mark, and cut it straight there. Now, I need to take a little bit off of this, so I'm going to open up the arm of the trimmer and bring it over to 10.5. So I have it over to 10.5. And I'm just cutting off a little bit at the end. It is a very small piece that we're cutting. So that's all that's going to be cut off on the end. So again, those dimensions are 5.5 by 10.5. That's what we want to cut. We have this piece left over, and what we need to do is make some score lines. Let's move this up, and you can see the score lines are marked right here. We're going to be scoring at 4 1/4, 5 1/4, and 6 1/4. So there is 4 1/4. We'll be placing that in. doing a score 5 1/4. I'm just going to bring this out. So there's the 5 1/4 and the 6 1/4. It's a little tough to see because it falls right in the middle there. So because it falls right in the middle there, I have a little trick for you. I'm going to take this out completely and I'm going to just turn it around and score it again at 4 1/4. Right? And there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some folds on this and watch which way it goes. So the folds go a certain way. So I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to fold this side. So there's the 2 score marks on the left and the right and the one in the center. You can see that there. Left and right and one in the center. I'm going to take the one on the right. I'm going to fold it over. And the one in the center, I want it to come up. So it's going to be like a little mountain. So I got it left and right. So there we go. I'm going to fold it together like that. And that is going to create, you can see that's going to create the valley or the mountain on the, it's the mountain on the inside. Okay, so I have that. We have that folded. That will be our base for the purse. But what we want to do is we need to extend this purse a little bit longer and make a little flap. I'm going to move this off to the side with those measurements. We need to create a flap. And the flap is going to be 5 1/2 by 3. Now remember that piece that I had cut off? That extra part from that sheet, and this is exactly the right size. So if I place it in here, it is exactly 3 inches. That's fantastic. All I need to do is turn it to 5 1/2. I'm going to cut that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take it back. So there's the 1 inch. There is 1/2, and I'm going to score that right there. I have it scored, so what I want to do is I want to fold it over. Let's make a nice crisp line on that. And that's going to become the flap of our purse. I'm going to bring our piece back in, so there is our purse part, and this becomes the flap. So it extends it a little bit longer. So there we go. You can see it on there. And I'm going to be gluing that on. So because I'm not doing any extra on this, I can actually glue this flap to that top part. And I'm going to be using tear and tape to do that. Just move that off to the side. I'm going to get my tear and tape. I'm going to take my time and do that. I don't want it to go too far over, and I want it nice and flat. You can see it's on the top and the bottom there. There we go. It's all the way across. I'm going to peel this up. And I'm going to bring back in that card base. What I want to do is I need to line it up so that maybe I'll just do it this way. It's a little easier. I can see. So I can see the score line right there. And I'm going to go just shy of it. I'm not going to go on top of it. I'm going to go just shy of it so that it can fold. There we go. So there it is folded. I can place this together. And that becomes the basis of our purse card. So we've extended it a little bit further up. And what we're going to be doing is with some of the card base from the kit is we will be hiding these mechanics. The trick with card making is always hiding your mechanics. Okay, so I have this card base started, and what I need to do is I need to cut some DSP. I want to call it DSP, but it's really not quite DSP. It is the card bases that we're going to be cutting apart. So I need 2 of them. So I need 2, so 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm going to be cutting this piece off. I'm going to be using that. And from this card base, I'm not going to be using this gold portion. I'm going to be using the back of the card. So make sure that you cut the correct piece. I'm going to cut this one in half. So that dimension, let's bring that up again, 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm going to take it to 4 inches and I'm going to cut. And I'm going to turn this to 5 1/4. And the reason that I'm doing this, it's so that it creates a really nice mat around this. Let's just call it DSP. Again, I need to do that for this. I'm going to cut it at 4 inches. But what you're going to notice, you see the kind of, it's like a water kind of image here. If I cut right here, I'm going to cut all of this off and it won't look right in the card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take small cuts and I'm going to narrow it down on the left and right. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to back it up a little bit so I can see it clears that image. So when I'm going to leave a little bit on that one side, very important. This is not quite 4 inches, so what I'm going to do is turn it around again, cut it to 4 inches. I'm going to look, there is no blue in the track, so it is fine to cut. And the reason I did that is so that you walk in the cut so that it centers this image. I'm going to also do that now left and right. This should be 5 1/4. Right now it is 5 1/2. So I can take off like 1 inch, 1/8 from each side. So a very small portion. You're going to see it's a very, very small cut I'm taking off on the left. I'm going to turn it around, 5 1/4. Again, a very tiny, tiny cut there. There we go. And it pretty well centers it in the middle, so that image. Okay, so we have those two centered like that. And these are going to be glued on the one on the inside of the card purse and one on the outside. So let's work with the one on the inside first. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to lay it down. So there is the inside. Remember the seam that we had on the top part? I'm going to lay one in there. And as you can see, it covers the seam so you don't see the mechanics behind that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that down. There we go. I'm going to glue that down. Now, I could leave the inside of the purse like this and having this just with the Blackberry Bliss on this side. But you know what? Remember when we cut off this piece, the extra piece on here, I thought, you know what? I could leave this open like that, but I'm going to use this piece right here. And again, cut that down. And I'm going to put that on the inside of the card. I'm going to cut it to 4 5 1/4. So 4 inches. Just be careful on which side you cut because there is a little score line. That is what you want to cut off. By 5 1/4. Oops, we're skipping all there. Now, I'm going to put this on the inside. I thought it would look really nice, but you don't have to if you don't feel like it. So you're going to see that look. It makes a really nice edge all the way around. I think it's going to make a difference. I'm just going to glue this on the inside. Why not use the extra pieces that are laid over instead of just having them, you know, sit without being used? This would look fine just without it on the inside, but you know what? I think it just adds that one little extra piece. So I'm going to close up the card. So the insides are done. Folds up. There we go. And I've got our little flap. Now it's looking pretty plain on the outside, I must say. So that piece that I cut with this absolutely gorgeous thistle here will go on under the flap. So there's the flap on top. I'm going to be placing that underneath. So there we go. Got the flap and it goes on top. That is absolutely beautiful. I just love this. Okay. And I'm going to add some glue to the back of this. Or you can use tear and tape. It's whatever you would like. I like the liquid glue. I find that it is a very strong glue, just like tear and tape. Also gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to place that on top. Again, with a really nice frame around the top, bottom, left, and right. You can see that there. I'm going to let that dry. That looks fantastic. This card is coming together really, really well. What we need to do, remember the front of this flap is vacant, so we are going to be cutting a piece for that. Now remember I told you about the gold leaf or the gold image on that extra half of the card? That's what we're going to be using. You'll see it fits on here. I could use this portion down here. I could turn it and use this one on there. But you've got to be very careful when you cut this one piece. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through on how to do it. What we want to do is cut it. You see on here there is like a gold frame around. We want to keep that intact as much as possible. I'm going to be using the long little leaf part that's gold on this. Now there's a score line right underneath, so I'm going to need to cut that off. Okay, so I'm going to cut that off. So there's the score line, just be careful. And I'm going to have it just offset. So the score line just got cut off. Okay. Now we need to cut this down to match this flap. Now the flap that we had was 5 1/2 long and 3 inches tall. Okay. Remember that's the flap dimension. There we go. There's the flap dimension. 5 1/2 by 3 inches tall. When we're going to be cutting this piece, let's move that off. We're going to be cutting that piece to 5 1/4, which is this way, 5 1/4 by 2 3/4 tall. Now, as we cut, again, the 5 1/4, we're going to do small cuts moving in and trying not to cut into those gold pieces. If you want, we can always start with the 2 3/4. This way we don't ruin the whole card, and we can always use the other half for something else. So let's do that. Let's cut it at 2 3/4 tall. So 2 3/4. So there is the gold leafing. And I'm moving it to 2 3/4. And I'm cutting that straight across. This way, I can reserve this for something else that maybe I want to create with. Now, we need to cut it down a little bit by 5 1/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in just a little bit and see how close I can get to 5 1/4. I'm going to move it over on this side. If I cut it 5 1/4, it's pretty well going to miss that gold. I'm just going to bring it over a little bit more than 5 1/4. So what is that? 5 and it's like something of an 18th or a 16th. So a tiny smidgen, like one little tiny little mark. It's like 1/16th of a mark. So I wanted to have it as even as possible. Let's bring back our card and just double check. And oh, that looks like to be a little bit too long. So let's bring back our card. So if I lay this on top, I can look. Left and right is correct. Now the bottom is correct. There's an edge. Now when I look and I flip it over, it's a little bit long on the top. I have two choices. I can either score that and then fold it back, or I can cut it completely off. If you wanted to cut it off, I'm going to give you the measurements for that. If you want to score it, let's take a look to see what those measurements are. So the dimensions, if you want to do option 1, which is scoring, you're going to score at 2.5. Or if you want to do cut option 2, which is cut it down, is at 2 1/4. I'm going to show you both. I'm going to score it first at 2 1/2 so you can see what it looks like. But I'm going to move on to 2 1/4 and cut it. So I just wanted to show you the two options and how they are going to look. Bring back in my trimmer. So I want to double check where the leaf is. I don't want to score that. So I'm going to bring this over to 2 1/2. The leaf is on the left side. I'm going to score that. It's got a very small score, and I'm going to fold it over. That is an option. What you can do is you can lay it on top. There we go. And it will go over like that. It is up to you if that's what you want to do, but I kind of like going with the nice clean look of the cut option at 2 1/4. Bring it back in. I'm going to cut it at 2 1/4. Again, watching where that gold leafing is. Okay, so there were the two options. I'm going to bring this back in and I'm going to lay it down. And I can see top, bottom, left, right, and there is a frame all the way around. Personally, I like this look better, and I think it is it looks very striking with the colors on that. And what I'm going to do is actually going to glue this down onto the flap. I'm going to open up this card because what I'm going to do with this when I glue it down, now watch which way that you're going to glue. So you want the gold leafing or the gold on the bottom so that it is, when your purse is closed, it is in the right spot. So I'm going to place that down and I'm going to leave it flat and I'm going to let it dry like that. In the meantime, what I can do is I can get my sentiment and my stamp and my ephemera items together. I also have my ribbon, so these are what we're going to be doing to finish up creating this card. What I can do is I'm going to take this ribbon and I'm going to take it around the top flat portion. So I'm not going to go beyond this score line here. Okay, what you may want to do is use a glue dot on the other side on the back if you want to hold it in place. I'm going to pull this, and I need quite a bit of ribbon to do this. And I'm going to bring it over. If you want to make like a bow, I highly suggest first wrapping your ribbon. Okay, wrapping your ribbon and ending it right here. The reason I want you to do that is because when you make a bow, it's going to lay flat. So I have the two ribbons, and I would use my glue dot to hold it in place like that. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to get one piece of glue dot to hold that item down, that piece of ribbon, and I kind of want it off to the left side a little bit. Let's bring that down. I'm going to touch the ribbon to there, pull it tight so it's wrapped around, get another glue dot or two. Want to make sure that that doesn't go anywhere. I'm going to put a couple of glue dots down, and I want to dead end it right on that spot, just overlapping a tiny bit. Again, pulling tight, not too tight that it folds the card, and I'm going to lay it over, making sure that I've hit those glue dots I placed down. I got a little extra hanging over. I'm just going to back it up a little bit and cut that off. Okay. Now you'll notice that it lays nice and flat that way. And now I can make a bow and place the bow on top, and it will sit nice and flat on that dead end. And again, covering our mechanics. Okay. I'm going to angle cut my ribbon. I think that looks really nice. Again, we are going to take our glue dot and place it right on top where it dead ends. Oh, come on, it's stuck. It's so sticky it sticks. Now I'm going to just add a couple of glue dots just to make sure. Put one right underneath. All right. I'm going to add another one because that one seems to be going all over the place. Let's make sure that there's enough glue on there. And I'm going to place that ribbon right on top where it dead ends. And that's going to stick really well. What we can do now is we can kind of move on to our little ephemera items. Let's close this up so you can get an idea of what it looks like. That is looking lovely, don't you think so? Oh my gosh. Now the ephemera flower, you're going to see it is a little large for what it is, and I can cut like right here. There's a spot when you look that you can cut it. And say I'm going to lay my label on top. I can use this piece in another spot. So I'm going to take this ephemera item, and you can cut anywhere along here that you want. I'm just going to cut here because I think it's going to look kind of natural. I'm going to trim that off from the leaf. That was just a little snip. So now I kind of have like two flowers. I have this gold leaf item, and I can place that. I can follow the leaf that I have on here. I'm going to place that across, and I kind of have it overhanging a little bit on the bottom. Again, I'm going to put my flower there. Now you'll notice I am not gluing quite yet. The reason I like to do this first is figure out where everything is going to be going. Okay, so I got them moved around. And if I put the sentiment on top, let's see what happens. I can place the sentiment on top, and it kind of hides some of that. But I want the sentiment, do I want it to overhang a little bit? Do I want it lower than the purse? You have to be aware of that. If you do, what's going to look like when you open it? Okay, so there's the back. Hold on to it, kind of pinch it, move the items around to see how you like how they look. I might actually have the flowers and everything hanging off a little bit more over the purse, just like this, and place my sentiment a little higher. I kind of like that look. I think that looks really cool. This way, when you open the card, there's some flowers hanging over. But figure out what you like best and then go with that. So I like that look. Now I know the gold piece needs to go there. So I'm going to place something to hold it. Again, we're going to use a glue dot. And if I was an octopus, this would help. I could use my 4 other arms to do this. I'm going to place a little glue dot there, just so that that gold piece doesn't move. I want it to stick. Oop, come on, I want it to stick. There we go. I just don't want it to go anywhere. I'm going to take another glue dot, place it on top, and I'm going to back up this flower a little bit, again, touching that glue dot. And one more glue dot for that last flower. Now I remember the sentiment is going right about there. Again, I'm going to have this go down a little bit. There we go. So if I place this on, I'm not going to touch it because it'll glue down. Now, if I don't like that, I can always just lift these up carefully and move it over. So because it's only one little glue dot, I can kind of maneuver it up a little bit and kind of shimmy him over a bit more. Everybody is a little different on where they like the placement of their flowers. And that's what makes us all unique. And, oops, I think I took the glue dot off with that. I wanted to shimmy him a little bit further. I wanted the gold to stay actually where it was. Again, on there. Oops. I want it to be there, and I don't want it to overhang too much. Oops. Oh, now it's all sticky. Oh, dear. Now it's all in there. Okay. I'm going to move him over a little bit more. Okay. Let's again. I'm going to go back, place my sentiment tag on top. And I think that is perfect. That's where I'm going to want it. See, I got my flowers hanging off. Everything is hidden. What I just need to do is stamp my sentiment. And the color we're going to be using is the Blackberry Bliss. I'm not going to be using the ink spot because I have a full ink pad of that. I have a couple of blocks. And what I'm going to do is take the block that fits the best on the stamp. Okay. Just to make sure it fits, I can lay it down on top. Pick it up. There we go. And I'm going to ink that up. And I am going to stamp straight up and down. Make sure you don't rock, and there we go. That worked out really well. Let's bring back in our card. And I'm going to get some dimensionals and place them on that little sentiment on dimensionals. In the kit is another little label like this, but it looks one with a little bit more of like a wash on it. You can stamp that and put that on the inside if you want, or you can just leave it plain. So I'm going to place that on top. And I forgot to take off the backing of that. There we go. There we go. That is sticking up a little bit high. So I'm going to add a second dimensional underneath that. It's just because it's not quite touching the card. There we go. I'm going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to this one flower on the outside. That's going to look really nice. And for the final items, I'm going to add some embellishments. I love these little gold embellishments. I'm hiding them in between all the little flowers. I think it adds quite a bit of sparkle there. That's really, really cute. There we go. And I just added a bunch on the front. Okay, so there we go. I open it up. I can see some of the flower hanging off. Gorgeous, gorgeous paper on the inside. Fold it open. Like I said, you can add your label or you can stamp right on here. It's up to you. I think that's a perfect spot for coloring or writing your message. You can write a message on this side. I think it looks fantastic. I absolutely love this. I hope you were able to follow along, and I'd love to see your take on this purse.